Anunnaki correlation between the Sumerian gods and the God of the Old Testament. The only certainty that we have in our lives is that we know nothing. Kind of ironic, don't you think? We have just recently started to learn about our world and our history, yet our understanding is extremely restricted and complete. One of the most puzzling aspects of our existence is the source of all life, the beginning point that led to the creation of this world and the diverse life it hosts. Throughout history, many different religions have sprung up, trying to explain the meaning of life, creating a system of morality, leading to the dogmatic nature of our belief system. There was a time when creationist theories were dominant, although there have been many different versions and interpretations explaining divinity and creationism, all pretty much conformed to similar foundations. For example, the Abrahamic religions all conform to similar beliefs with slight variations, yet all claiming to be authentic while disproving the same foundational beliefs they are built upon. Now creationist theories have lost their luster and the evolutionist theories are gaining more credibility, but even the modern scientific theories fail to adequately explain the missing link between our leap from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. Today we have various alternative theories that attempt to explain humanity's evolution. The Sumerian cuneiform tablets discovered in the 17th century provide an alternative understanding. A lot of these alternative narratives were slow to enter mainstream knowledge and thought. The main reason why certain knowledge that contradicted biblical accounts was slow to surface was due to the absolute control exerted by the Church in earlier times. Since the Roman Catholic Church had great influence over the civilized world, they would only allow archaeological expeditions that helped perpetuate their own narrative, the narrative dictated by the canonical Bible. And let's remember that up to recently, a couple of hundred years ago, the Roman Catholic Church did not allow the Bible to be translated into other languages. They had to learn it in Latin. For example, those who translated into English were really chastised for it. Now, going back to this, the hidden truth. What I wanted to say is that they didn't even know what their religion taught them because they couldn't read the Bible. They couldn't understand what the written word was all about. Now, the hidden truth. The God that the Old Testament talks about, Yahweh, is the same God or deity worshipped by the people of the ancient Sumerian city Ur, who was known as Enlil. Proof of Enlil and his divine relatives can be found in the various temples from Ashur to Nineveh to Ur. Enlil's brother Enki, along with his children Inanna and the Nanar, also had temples dedicated to them in various prominent trade and cultural centers. These higher beings were known as the Anunnaki. The Genesis mentions them both, Enlil and Enki, along with some prehistoric tablets, and these accounts dictate that these beings were involved in genetic engineering to produce workers, the Homo sapiens. Now, this is all according to the Sumerian legends, okay? I don't agree with all of this, but I'm just putting it out there for you. Now, we have historical records of documents dating around 5,000 years ago that provides a rather vivid account of the creation of human beings through genetic engineering. It also helps explain the story of Noah, who, according to historical accounts, was around 600 years old at the time of the flood that nearly destroyed the world, the deluge. The Bible tells us that Noah was the son of a divine being. What if this divine being was an extraterrestrial entity, an assumption that would explain the abnormally long lifespan Noah enjoyed? Well, let's remember that even his father and forefathers had very long lifespans, not just Noah. That all changed, though, after the flood because something happened and the lifespans of humans started decreasing. Something happened that changed the world. The atmosphere, even the sun, was stronger, it shone brighter, and that's where Noah also had the beginning of the rainbow. There were no rainbows before then. So something changed in the atmosphere. Now, according to Mantheo, an Egyptian historian and priest, the first dynastic rulers of the Egyptian gods ruled the region for about 12,300 years. Interestingly, the Sumerian texts dictate that Enki was assigned as the ruler of Egypt and Africa by Anu, his father, around 3760 BC, the same time as the Jewish calendar starts, which also has its roots in Nippur, a Sumerian city. According to the Sumerian culture, all aspects of their civilization were taught to them by their gods, quote-unquote. This makes sense considering their unusually detailed and accurate knowledge of the Earth's orbital plane, spherical shape, tilted axis, and the construction of the zodiac. However, in Middle Age Europe, a period considered by historians to have been far more modern and scientifically advanced in comparison to the Sumerian civilization, scientists believed the Earth to be flat, whereas Sumerians possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics, law codes, metallurgy, astronomy, had one of the most advanced alphabets, and produced many inventions. Our history is clearly wrong. All this evidence forces us to think about all of what we have been taught so far, shattering all of our beliefs and causing severe dissonance. However, once a person is over the initial phase and simply examines the conflicting information regarding the prevailing beliefs, they acquire more clarity as old misconceptions and fallacies are left redundant. Without our beliefs clouding our view of the world and all of the evidence pointing towards an alternative truth, we're forced to look at history all over again and discover the influence of the Anunnaki. History is wrong. All of the evidence that we have correlates the Sumerian god with the god of the Old Testament. For example, Enlil, the Sumerian god of storm, highly resembles the wrathful, vengeful god of the Old Testament. Okay, again, this is Enlil, the Sumerian legends. I don't agree that he's the god of the Old Testament. Now, I'm just reading the article for you. The primary reason for this information not being part of the mainstream is due to the influence exerted by the dominant ruling powers or superpower of our mainstream culture. Consequently, those who have ever ventured away from the mainstream religious teachings have been considered as deviants and labeled with derogatory terms such as occultists or pagans. This results in the rejection of new ideas by the mainstream society, and the polarization prevents people from seeking or advocating for the truth. And the perfect example of the ruling party narrating versions of truth is present not only in our history but also in present time. So we can examine the cradle of civilization, the Middle East, where all three dominant religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, were born. Since the Middle Ages, these three religious factions have been involved in perpetual conflict as the ancient land of Canaan, and all of these religious factions originate from Sumer. The devotees of these areas find themselves in conflict with the followers of Enki. The current conflicts in the Middle East and other surrounding countries seem to be linked with the past wars that took place in the same region between those ancient gods Enlil and Enki. So, in other words, these differences that we are witnessing today are never-ending for supremacy of the Anunnaki. And according to leading Sumerologists, the term Anunnaki, it's interpreted as those who descended from the heavens to earth. An important point to note is the word heaven, which is used to refer to the planet of origin for the Anunnaki. Their home planet was called Nibiru, which is explained in the book The 12th Planet by the author Zecharia Sitchin. And the biblical reference of Nibiru, the planet Nibiru, has been frequently associated with the term heaven as used in the Bible. Again, I don't agree with that. But this little detail of particular importance when we examine religious prayers such as Our Father who art in heaven, heaven means it's not on earth, it's above us. Heaven is the kingdom of heaven. It's in another realm. So let's keep that in mind when we read these Zechariah Sitchin and the legends of Sumeria, it doesn't mean that it's truth. It's just a legend. So anyway, we find ourselves correlating between biblical texts and the origins of Anu's children and the Sumerian legends. And according to Sitchin, the reason for Anunnaki's departure from their home planet to come to Earth is because of its location, lying beyond Pluto and trapped in a 3,600-year-long retrograde elliptical orbit around the center of our galaxy, the Sun. And Nibiru's location is dictated by Sumerian maps, which consolidated when Dr. Harrington discovered a large planet and conveyed his discovery in reports from the 1983 Iris Naval Observatory. The planet was found in the same region dictated by Sumerian accounts, meaning the planet that is home to the Anunnaki is real and inbound to perihelion, a point in orbit that is close to the Sun around 1,400 years from now. There are many dwarf planet bodies that we don't consider as planets due to their size. They don't receive the necessary solar radiation to maintain habitable surface temperatures. Because of this, life on this alien planet could only be sustained artificially through technology that's that's unknown to us, or some other natural phenomena such as the steam that's released from geothermal heat or whatever. Now, according to Sitchin's research, the translations on the history timeline around 450,000 years ago, Nibiru's environment was reaching extinction levels, especially when it was nearest to the Sun, and they had a need to look for another habitable planet, and that led their leaders to travel inwards, where they found our planet Earth, which was not only the perfect environment for life, but also rich in many resources such as gold, monatomic gold, and due to the superior technology possessed by these Anunnaki, they could use our planet's gold reserves in an attempt to save their own civilization by dispersing ionized particles of gold dust into the planet's atmosphere. And as a result, Anu and his two sons, Enlil and Enki, came to our planet to mine for gold. Anu put Enki in charge of Earth's excavation operations. And due to, however, Niburian inheritance laws, the elder son is the rightful heir to the throne. Enlil was the eldest son of Anu, and Anu's sister, hence of royal blood, whereas Enki was the younger son of a non-royal mother. Anu's decision to put Enki in charge of Earth's mining operation resulted in rivalry between the two brothers. Once the Anunnaki arrived on Earth, Anu divided and assigned various locations for mining operations. Enki was assigned Africa, Enlil was in charge of Mesopotamia, and Inanna, his grandmother, was responsible for the Indus Valley region. All of this was finalized in 3760 BC, hence the significance of the date. The labor was conducted by subservient workers known as Igigi, or the Watchers, and these workers worked hard under slave-like conditions for some time, but over time grew disillusioned by the perpetuity of their situation and revolted against the Anunnaki. So, in order to acquire labor, the Anunnaki, they say, the legend says, resorted to the genetic engineering, resulting in a new species and a primitive worker, they say, the Homo sapiens. And this will be continued in another video. This is by Anonymous PhD on Humans Are Free, and it's Creative Commons by Alexander Light. Anyway, tell me what you think about this. It's, again, as we said, a legend. There are a lot of passages in the Old Testament Genesis that are really a little bit confusing, but trying to explain how the beginning of humanity started. But we have to remember that a lot of those terms and texts are spiritual. The word Eden is a spiritual existence. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, You will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.